Guys, welcome back to the channel. Now, this past weekend we've seen pro-Iranian demonstrations on the streets of central London, and of course this has come after the Israel versus Iran feud has lit up in the Middle East. But one thing these lefties don't understand, but post 1979 the Iranian people haven't seen much freedom. You know, they've lived under an oppressive regime, and they're not fighting for that. Because they're so fixated on Israel, they're advocating a pro-Iranian government that haven't given their own people much freedom for what is 46 years in counting. But anyway guys, let's look at some of the demonstrations that happened on the streets of London this past weekend.
As the world comes to terms with the grim reality of a new war in West Asia, hundreds have turned out near the Israeli regime's embassy in London in solidarity with Iran, a country they say is a victim of a blatant act of aggression.
You don't just attack a country for no reason. Iran poses no threat, certainly to the UK, to the US, to Israel, no threat whatsoever. So this manufactured threat.
Among their demands, an immediate international condemnation and an end to impunity for a regime that's gotten away with it for far too long.
This is typical behavior to be expected from Israel, a country that's been acting with impunity. It's been partaking in a genocide for the past 2 years, and has been waiting for the opportunity, for the excuse to attack Iran. And let's be clear about this. When we say Israel, we mean Israel, the US, and all of its allies, because they are all supporting it.
There was also reaction to the UK government's position, which was merely an expression of serious concern, highlighting the aggressor's right to defend itself and calling for restraint.
This is unfortunately a big joke. They are the biggest aggressors. They are occupying, and then they say they're defending themselves. I mean, how can you defend yourself if you're an occupier, if you're an aggressor?
This was the first of many other demonstrations to come to support a nation, they say, that stood up for Palestine and to Zionism.
This is not about nuclear weapons. This is not about nuclear technology. This is not about human rights. This is about those who support the Palestinians and stand against genocide, and those who support the Zionist state.
As American and Western supplied Israeli bombs fall on Tehran, voices in London from a broad spectrum of civil society are rising, condemning the Israeli aggression against the Islamic Republic of Iran and Western silence. Saipur is Press TV, London.
We're going to follow up with a speech that was given at this pro-Iranian demonstration in London this weekend.
We see how this horror risks spilling over with strikes on Yemen, Lebanon and Syria, bombs falling on Iran. We're staring down the barrel of an even greater catastrophe, a regional war which will count costless lives more and bring unimaginable suffering. This is not about defense, it's not about democracy, it's about domination, about maintaining a brutal system and silencing anyone who dares to resist it. And let me say this clearly, if we do nothing, if we continue in the way that we have, the UK will have blood on its hands. By continuing to arm Israel, continuing to train the IDF, our government will be complicit in genocide. Now, we know that the government have called for de-escalation, we know that they've sanctioned 2 Israeli ministers, and we know that they have had strong words for them. You're absolutely right, this is not enough. It's not enough to stop the spread of war. You know, I once read that the average age of a child being killed in Gaza is something like between 6 and 9 years old, because they're too large to carry but too small to run fast enough. That is what's happening. It's not enough. It's not enough. We need sanctions. You know, enough of the bombs, enough of the lies, enough of pretending that Palestinian life is disposable. And, you know, this isn't about foreign policy, it's about our shared humanity. So we need an immediate ceasefire across the region. We need an end to UK arms sales and the training of the IDF. We need more sanctions on Israel. An end to the blockade on Gaza and the siege that we see on the West Bank. We need to recognise the state of Palestine. Because peace is never going to come through war, and security will not come through siege, and justice is never going to come without some form of accountability. So we continue to stand with the people of Gaza, those civilians being bombed across Iran and the Middle East, and we need to keep calling for an end to a genocide, a ceasefire now, and a free Palestine. Palestine. Thank you.
I honestly failed to understand why they couldn't be so vocal when, you know, the women were being oppressed, and we were seeing it, you know, on social media, women in Iran. I don't understand why they couldn't be so vocal. They didn't take to the streets in the manner they're taking to the streets for this cause, you know, and feminists, where were feminists? They were nowhere to be seen, you know, because we always understand that when the going gets tough, you know, feminists just aren't around, you know, they couldn't care less, you know, and they weren't fighting the fight for the Iranian women and for the Iranian people. This is why I believe around 9 million have fled the country, you know, because of no political freedom, religious freedom, social freedoms. Let's read a couple of the comments anyway, guys. These noisy, unrepresentative renter mobs are just that. Activists who pollute the streets of our cities endlessly, chanting slogans in support of terrorist and despotic theocratic regimes, parading around in their SWP banners. We know they're either useful idiots or paid. Supporting the Iranian regime isn't about defense. It isn't about democracy. It's about domination, about maintaining a brutal system and silencing anyone who dares resist it. They are supporting a heinous, barbaric regime who've demanded our death and slaughter, who stoned women just for showing their hair. Labour MPs are now actively supporting enemies who want us dead. Guys, let me know in the comment section what you think about this whole situation, about what happened in central London, you know, this past week. And, you know, is being pro-Iran the solution? You know, but the people, these leftists don't understand that, you know, you're also the enemy in the West. You know, regardless of, you know, who you are, you just living in the UK, you're a huge, you know, you're a target to them, and they don't care. It's just facts. You know, and also you don't care about the Iranian people because they've suffered enough, you know, and someone should be fighting their fight, and you couldn't care less because it's just about, you know, going against Israel. And anyone who does that, you're absolutely fine with that, regardless if they, you know, want to get you as well or they want you dead. So it's crazy. Anyway, guys, let me know in the comment section what you think about it. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.